It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on in to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. Streaming online at 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. You can also catch our show on the podcast feed afterward. If you can't catch us live, 4 to 5 p.m. during the summers, 4 to 6 for every other time of the year when things are happening. But some things are still happening.
Yes.
Some things still to talk about, some things still being learned, the House settlement and kind of the fallout or goings on after the settlement has been reached. We're going to talk a little bit about NIL Go as Ross Dellinger had another report. We'll talk about some of the particulars that are beginning to be known about how this new, NIL Go or the Deloitte clearinghouse, or kind of those two things are used interchangeably. They've given it a name, but it's from Deloitte. And we'll also talk about Utah State football today. Had an article released last night on Cache Valley Daily. I gave my thoughts on who I thought would be breakout players, either returners who are going to have kind of a breakout season or incoming transfers that I think are going to end up being kind of plug and play guys who will make impacts right away. So we'll get into that as well. Also, Utah State track and field, Logan Hammer. I mentioned this yesterday, didn't get into it too much, but he is an All-American. And then Shelby Jensen advancing to the final of the 3,000-meter steeplechase and making Utah State history as she does so. And we'll also talk about the exciting NHL Stanley Cup Game 4 that happened last night, the third overtime game of that series so far, and we're only 4 games in, Eric. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Very amazing.
And if you want to join the Full Court Press via the Young Power Sports text line, you can text 435-339-0321. And our first pearl of wisdom, 9315. Saying the Ag Day barbecue is not on homecoming. Jason, saying, well, let me see if I can add punctuation here. The Ag Day barbecue is not on homecoming, Jason, which is criminal. That was mentioned at the beginning of yesterday's show, which played on some comments I was making about homecoming back on Tuesday. We're dragging this conversation out.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Now let's get into Utah State football. And if you have any thoughts, and if you have any players that you think are going to be breakout players for Utah State, returners or players who are transfers, we can all kind of lump them into one, guys who are new to the team or at least not known to the fans that are going to become very known to the fans one way or another. And so I came up with a list of, let's see, how many players did I have? I didn't count them. Let's see, 1, 2, hold on. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players. Oh, there's even 10. I didn't do that on purpose. So 10 players that I thought were going to become a little more well-known this year. So if you have any thoughts on that, I'll also hear Eric's, because I've made my opinion very well known over on CacheValleyDaily.com, but I want to hear Eric's thoughts as well. But let's start with players that were on last year's Utah State roster that we think are going to become either well-known names or perhaps more well-known. Because some of the players I included played a decent amount of time, but I think they're going to be stepping into an even bigger role, or perhaps more importantly, stepping into that role at the beginning of the year instead of being like an injury fill-in later in the year.
Yeah.
So starting with one of the first ones I have, that's John Miller. And he's one of those that's kind of tricky because he finished 4th on the Aggies in tackles last year. So I'm kind of stretching the definition, but a lot of that came after he made what was technically his second start of the year. But basically when the Aggies played New Mexico in October 19th, that's when he began being a key part of the defense. Started the final 6 games of the year, and he had 35 of his eventual 52 tackles in those 6 games. And all 4 of his tackles for loss, and I believe both of the sacks that he had. So basically, he began that production in the back half of the year, but I think he's going to step into that starting spot, or at least very likely to step into that starting spot, and be a big producer for the Aggies this season.
Yeah, I really liked him. I like how he developed as the season went on, and I agree with you. I think he could be somebody that's a player to watch, to keep an eye on. He's somebody that I think just has that good. What's the term I'm trying to think of? Just that I was thinking of this earlier today. Just watching his body language of how he is on the field, and I like how he pursues the ball and kind of sees the field, and I think he's going to have the opportunity is ripe for him to step into a large role and be kind of a leader on that defense. Somebody who's been here, who had experience at this level, playing against other Mountain West Conference schools. And I think he is somebody who can have a large role for Utah State on their defense.
And so moving on to the next one, I have 3 different wide receivers on this list in different capacities, which may be too many. But later on, I put 2 on the list because I couldn't differentiate between them. And so it's like one of the 2 is going to be an impact guy. But this is one of the returners, and that's Kahanu Davis. And this is a guy who hasn't actually caught a pass in college football since 2023. He caught 2 passes against Idaho State in 2023 for the Aggies. Now, last year, pretty much all of his snaps came from punt returns. And he had a 44-yard punt return against Hawaii, I believe it was. And I think he also had like an 11 or 12-yard punt return in that game as well. Helped the Aggies in that pretty solid win over Hawaii. That 44-yard return led to a touchdown. So now he's probably going to be stepping into that slot receiver spot. And I think he can step in and have a big role here because I don't know if the Aggies added too many slot receiver types. A lot of the guys that they brought in via transfers are those outside receivers, those X and Z receivers that are catching passes outside the numbers and making more of those deep receptions. Kahanu Davis, I think, will be able to step into that slot receiver role. Maybe there's a chance that he doesn't end up getting that spot, kind of going out on a limb here, guessing that Davis will get that. But I think, given what we've seen from him as a punt returner, and he's got enough size and speed to play that slot receiver spot pretty well.
Yeah, and that's something that I would like to see. We've seen some guys on Utah State's roster in the past who can be good specialists in returns, punt returns or kickoff returns. And we've always wondered if they can utilize that speed as a receiver, that would be so fun. But it doesn't always translate. Like Savon Scarver, particularly, is who comes to mind, who was a very dynamic in the return game, but we just didn't see him very much as a dynamic wide receiver. And I remember having criticisms of the coaching staff. Why don't they feature him more as a wide receiver to give him a little bit more of an opportunity at the next level? But sometimes it just doesn't always translate the same way.
It's like how Devin Hester never became a good wide receiver in the NFL.
Right. Sometimes you're very good at one thing and you excel at that one thing, and that's just who you are. And that's what I'm unsure about Davis. I'd like to see him show some more of his skill as a wide receiver. I think he does have some electric play ability in the return game. But what I would like to see, and I think there's an opportunity there, is for him to do more as a wide receiver. Utah State.
The Aggies really need wide receivers to step up. That's part of why they get featured so much here in this article, is there's a ton of room. Like, there's basically no receiving production back. The main receiving production back you actually get is from your tight ends. You have 2 tight ends returning, both of whom did a decent amount of work last year. But the wide receiver room was basically empty at the after the offseason. Then now after the transfer portal, I should say. After transfer portal and graduations had their say. But let's move on to the last couple of players that I have as far as returners who I think will break out. One of them real quick is just Enoka McGow. Am I saying? I need to double check, make sure I'm saying that right. Enoka, he was the week 1 starter last year at defensive end as the edge rusher. And he played a combined 67 snaps and then had a season-ending injury. And that was that. So it felt like almost too easy of a choice there to say, look, this is a guy who was starting last year. He was one of the 2 best edge rushers on the team last year. And he's very likely going to, at least win a rotation spot. We'll see if he wins the starting battle. I don't know if there's too many newcomers who are going to be able to steal it from him. But this is a guy who should have a breakout season after last year was supposed to be his breakout season. So
yeah, and I like that. And I think that the timing is there. Like, this is, if he's going to have a breakout year, this needs to be the year.
Yeah, it does. All right, next one, George Miley. The offensive line is a little tricky, but I think George Miley is one of the sure things I think we'll see on the offensive line, especially the interior offensive line. This is a guy who actually was playing pretty much every game. In fact, he did play every single game, all 12 games. A lot of those, he was just kind of a spot sub on the offensive line at left or right guard. But over the last few games, he played, I think, what was the stat I had? 210 snaps over the final 3 games of the season. Technically only started 1 game, but dude was playing a lot. And I think he's going to step in, and I think he's going to be, I think he's probably going to be the best offensive lineman on the team. And I don't think that's going to be a bad thing to say. I think he's going to be a good offensive lineman. I think he's going to be, either will be or be a fringe All-Mountain West offensive lineman. So that's one of my picks on the offensive line. He may not get a whole lot of attention because offensive linemen, it's hard for them to have a breakout season. But yeah, I think given, I think the fact that he's going to be the best offensive lineman will at least be worthy of that recognition of a breakout season. Yeah,
and I agree. And those, it's unfortunate. Those guys play such an important role.
They don't have any stats. That's the problem.
But it's hard to always give them the props and the flowers that they deserve. But yeah, that is an offensive line looking for experience, looking for guys who can be solid as other new guys are coming in and being kind of moved around a little bit. And so having somebody that has that level of snaps and experience is really going to be a key for Utah State this entire season.
All right. So were there any others? So I've given my thoughts on returning breakout players. Did you have any that you thought of?
I like those. I would just add a few more. And I think to clarify, I think that there are some players that are good that we pretty much know are going to be good and are going to play large roles. So just because we don't mention some players like Bryson Barnes, I don't.
Yeah,
Bryson's going to be QB1, and there's not really much debate about it.
Yeah, and he's played a lot, and so
we're
it's
already going to know what he is. Same thing with Ike Larson. He's a solid player. Yeah, maybe a little bit down last year, and expect him to have a larger opportunity this next season. So there's some guys that are there, but I don't know they're going to be breakout.
Yeah, we're kind of having to draw a line of what is a breakout. You've already had a breakout. You can't have another one.
Right. So just to be clear, but I would add 2 other players to this list who are coming back. Will Holmes, outside linebacker for Utah State, had an interesting journey to get to Utah State and play football, and played a little bit. We started to see him later in the year and started to see what he is capable of. And so we just saw a glimpse of it, and I'm excited for what this year's going to bring for Will Holmes.
Yeah, I think he's such an interesting player because he's so athletic. He's got the size, speed, athleticism, got a bit of experience last year. And yeah, I think he could be definitely fit into that breakout candidate. I don't think I'd project him as a starter, but a lot of things can change pretty quickly. Right. And he is probably one of the most interesting players on that defensive side of the ball.
And then another one who I wanted to add on defense is Bo Miley. I just think a defensive tackle who's been around a little bit, and maybe he's in the Bryson Barnes, Ike Larson category where he's been around.
Yeah, he's played a decent amount.
He's played a lot, but has he really been a real player? I mean, he's been there. I don't mean to denigrate or downgrade his contributions previously, but I just think that he can have an opportunity. He's in a position to be a real force on that defensive front.
Yeah, and I think given he's got more experience, on this Utah State squad than a lot of other people on that defense, then that obviously has a role in that too. Being a leader that's been around the program and knows what it's like. Even if it's a new coaching staff, still having a guy that's been in Logan for a few years.
Right.
That has its value. So let's look at potential transfer stars. We got to hit a break soon, but we're going to get through a couple of these. And the first one that I put on here is a player that I think I'm quickly maybe getting in danger of overhyping. And that's Javen Jacobs, where I went and watched a bit of film. There's not a whole lot because I think he only had like 20-something carries last year. And there's like 1 or 2 games where he had any volume of carries. So it was a little tricky to really get an idea of the kind of runner Javen Jacobs is. But he's got good speed. I think he's a pretty solid runner. I think that's probably why he got converted to a running back, is because while he does have speed and size to be a wide receiver, some of that running ability, that natural running ability of cutting through lanes, being able to work your way through a defense, I think he's got some of that. And then also I really like the ability of him to be a receiving back, like an actual receiving back. Not just a guy who catches screen passes every now and again, but the true receiving backs who make an impact in the passing game. I always remember my New England Patriots. They always had a receiving back. They had Kevin Falk and Shane Vereen and Danny Woodhead and James White. Like, they had a ton of them. I think I missed 1 or 2 of them too. And those guys can have a big impact. The Aggies haven't really had that. I think the last one, Kerwin Williams, I think maybe had a couple, but his might have still just been kind of screen passes that were basically glorified run plays. I'm really curious to see how Jacobs gets utilized in the pass game, in addition to obviously what will hopefully be a pretty decent rush attack.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he provides versatility. I think that having that option puts numbers a little bit more in your favor on offense. I think it can create some matchup issues. It forces a defense to spend extra time thinking about him and how he could be used in an offensive scheme, which is always great. If you always have your defense spending extra time worrying about a different player on the field, then you're doing your job. But it's not just that he can be a guy who's going to catch screens, screen passes. I totally agree. I think just some of the things that we've watched, some of the things that we've heard, he's a solid runner. And I think that he can help move the chains. Maybe not really a power back. I don't think he's going to hit you and move you down the field very much. But I think he does have speed and he is elusive and he's downhill. So he's not going to spend a lot of time dancing around.
Yeah. Next one. Now we had a texter texting about this player, Noah Avenger, where he's a guy coming from New Mexico. Pro Football Focus graded him as the 2nd best coverage man and 3rd best defender overall on New Mexico last year. And so he's coming to bring to get the Aggies some experience. He's one of those guys in the defensive backfield, played corner last year. I can't remember if he was listed at safety on Utah State's roster. I think he's listed as a corner.
Listed as a corner.
Yeah, so likely going to see him there. Probably going to be one of those 2 starters on either the boundary or near side safety, or boundary or field. I don't know why I said near side. Boundary and field corner. One of those 2 spots. So I think with his experience and with already being a quality player, I think it's about as obvious of a plug and play as you're going to have on this team.
Yeah, that's there with a secondary, safeties and corners all kind of lumped all in together. There's a lot of them, so there is some uncertainty as to who's going to play what roles. But Avenger is somebody who brings a lot of experience. He's been able to grab interceptions. He's been able to pick up fumbles. He's had numerous pass breakups. This is an athletic corner. He started every game last year, was effective, one of the top guys in the Mountain West with what he did. And now he's in a deep secondary for Utah State. So it's an opportunity for him to really shine in an Aggie uniform.
So the next player, I've already kind of given my piece on him, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but Brevin Hamblin, the transfer from Utah Tech. And I've kind of pegged him as I think he's going to play that striker / nickel linebacker position, where he's going to be that versatile guy. He's a safety, but he had 96 tackles last year at Utah Tech. He's a guy who is a good run defender, a hard-hitting safety, And so I think that makes him a pretty good candidate for that, again, that nickel linebacker spot.
Yeah, I agree. He's listed as a safety, but he's pretty big. He's just tall, lanky.
Yeah, he's like 6'5", 215, I think.
Oh,
Or is he listed,
official here on his roster on the website at least lists him at 205.
205, I'm overestimating him, I guess.
But it'd probably be good if he could add a few more pounds.
Yeah, I'd hope if he's transitioning more to that, again, that nickel linebacker, then yeah, you want to be closer to actually 215.
Yeah. But yeah, it's somebody with that size, though. Anybody that's going to be coming across the middle, I mean, it's going to be harder to get a ball over him because of that size or through him. So I agree. Somebody who clearly is illustrated, he's got a nose for the football. How does that translate to this level is still a bit of a question. But we've seen guys who have a nose for the football. Doesn't matter. You put pads on them and put them in a system, they'll figure it out. And we've seen that here, even with the last few years, even with some guys who may look undersized, but they just have this knack for knowing where to be at the right time. And that's what he's proven so far in his career.
All right, so we're coming up against a break. We've got a few more players to go over and Eric's additions. I'm getting to say my piece on this, but we'll get through the rest of these. I've got, I think, 3 more on my list. We'll get to Eric's as well. So that's coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
The patio is open. The chips are endless. Drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
Daryl's Appliance Service and Sales is the only place in Cache Valley where you can apply your service trip fee to a new appliance if you decide to purchase new. This is Jay with Daryl's. We want your appliance repair to be easy. Save time and money because we have everything you need under one roof. Appliance service and sales and more. You always get the best appliance repair team in Northern Utah and Southern Idaho. And if you decide to buy new instead, just apply the repair fee to your new appliance. See store for details. Only at Daryl's Appliance West on Airport Road.
Honey, the garage door won't close again.
It's the sun hitting the sensors. I just fixed this.
Toilet paper rolls are not a fix. Is there something we can do?
Actually, yeah. Advanced Garage Door has these new sunshades that block direct light from the garage door sensors. Let me give Mason a call.
Is your garage door not closing? We can fix that. Call Advanced Garage Door at 435-255-6725. That's 435-255-6725. Or visit us at advancedgaragedoors.com.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning wants you to feel the love as they give away and install 5 new furnace and air conditioners to families in need. Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning is donating HVAC systems, equipment, materials, and installation services to help deserving families who need a little extra support, and they need your help. Nominate a family in need today. The nominations they're already open. They go through August 31st. At least 5 families will be selected between September and October. And nominate by going to mtnvalleyhvac.com and click the Feel the Love tab. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com. And if you want to join the show as we're talking about Utah State football at the moment, feel free to text 435-339-0321. That's the Young Power Sports text line. You can join us here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. And 6543 texting in saying, how do you rate the Ags' home schedule? Is it worth buying a season ticket?
Yes. Wait, what is the home schedule?
Utah State will get mad at us if we don't say yes. Not that we're particularly worried, but I went through it. And mind you, I've actually got an article coming out later today about basically where I rank the games by easiest to toughest. I kind of put them into a tier list, but I do a straight up 1 through 12 ranking. And I was kind of going through and trying to remind myself of exactly where I had all the different teams. And I'll say this, if you're looking for games in which the Aggies win, like if that's what you want, like if you're the kind of fan that wants to go see their team win, it's probably worth it. Because you're going to have UTEP at home, McNeese at home, and Nevada. Those are the 3 easiest games on the schedule for the Aggies. 3 easiest opponents, let alone 3 easiest games. So you're likely going to see 3 wins by the Aggies at home.
Yeah.
And then you've got 2 decently winnable games at home, Air Force and San Jose. Tough, could very well lose, but those I think are winnable games, even if the Aggies might be slight underdogs there. Then there's Boise State, where the Aggies are probably going to lose, but you never know. They've only beaten them once in the 21st century, but
you never know. There will be a lot of orange and blue.
Yeah, that's true.
In the arena, so don't let them get too many seats.
Yeah, but yeah, if you're looking for games in which the Aggies win, you're probably good. If you're looking for really interesting matchups, you might only have Boise State, or like if you're looking for good teams. Obviously, there's some fans that want to show up because there's a good team coming to town. In that case, you got Boise State, and that's pretty much it. But I've usually been more along the lines of I want to go to a game where I think my team is going to win. So if you're like me, it'd probably be worth going and getting a ticket.
Yeah, I think it's a balanced home schedule with games that you could go to with an expectation that Utah State should play well and likely win. There's a good number of those teams. There's going to be a game that's going to be a challenge, and there's a game that's going to be tough, but it's a rivalry. And so, I mean, not really in results, but more in geography. Yeah. So those games always can be kind of interesting. So I think it's a good home schedule. And I think that it could be pretty interesting for Aggie fans to see this new team and see it in person and see what this Bronco Mendenhall-led coaching staff is going to turn this team into.
I think it's good for this team in this situation.
Right, yes.
I think that's the biggest key. Maybe it's not the greatest home schedule of all time, but it's good for this team in this situation.
Yeah, and I think thank you. That's really what I was trying to communicate.
Yeah, there we go. Always happy to help, Eric.
Yeah.
So let's continue our conversation from the opening of the show. We were talking about breakout players, and at the moment we're going through transfer players that we think are going to step in and make impacts right away. I have a whole article on this, basically just going through my article, and I'll give Eric a time to have his say as well. I'll share the microphone.
Thanks for including me.
But the next person on my list, again, one of the transfers coming in that I think is going to make an impact right away, Dylan Tucker, transfer from Elon, playing at the FCS level. What's interesting, I think he's like in his 5th or 6th season, but there will only be one player on the team that has more Division I snaps than Dylan Tucker, and that's Ike Larson. So Dylan Tucker is an experienced player. He's going to step in. He's another corner. I think him and Noah Avenger are probably your 2 favorites to be the 2 starting corners. I think that's a pretty decent pair. 2 guys with experience, with good size, and they're proven with the experience. They've been good where they've been at. So I think it's almost too easy to say that those two guys are going to step in and be your corners.
Yeah, agree. Just because he has so much experience and he's maybe not at this level, and I always have to throw that as a caveat, but he's proven that he knows football, and he's proven that he can do solid things as a football player.
Yeah.
Now, how much of an impact is he going to have against bigger bodies on a regular basis? It's still to be determined, but that experience can go a long way. And the game speed's not going to be that dramatically different in the Mountain West than what he went through.
Yeah, I think we find he's got decent size as well. I think he's 5'11", 195. That's good size. Of course,
so, for a corner, that's fine.
Of course, he'll be facing bigger guys than he was at Elon, but still, I think he has a physical tool. So as long as he adjusts to the higher speed, which guys can do that. Because wasn't John Ross May from the FCS or even like Division II level? I think.
Yeah, and he's one that comes to my mind a lot, that he's somebody who made that transition, had a lot of experience, and just has a nose for the football and was able to make plays.
Yeah. So I think Dylan Tucker can be pretty similar. So the next two players, they're kind of, I didn't want to include only one of them, but it felt a little weird including both because this is where I have 3 wide receivers as potential breakout candidates. And I don't think there's enough. It's hard for any team to have like 3 breakout players at wide receiver, but I didn't want to like choose between them. So I put them both on there, and that's Corey Thompson, the transfer from UNLV, and Brady Boyd, the transfer from Texas Tech. One of these guys is probably going to be putting up bigger numbers than the other, assuming I'm right about them being potentially the starters. But one of them is probably going to be the top receiver for the Aggies, one of these 2 guys. I could certainly be wrong there, but I'm pretty confident that the leading receiver for the Aggies is going to be one of Corey Thompson, Brady Boyd, or even Kahanu Davis, who we mentioned last segment as one of the returners who could have a breakout year. And there's different reasons to like both these guys. And I'm going to throw in a fourth.
Oh,
here we go.
I'm going to throw in Carlos or Gillespie.
Yes.
Part of this is potential. A lot of this is based on potential.
Yeah. Is he coming off the redshirt season?
Yeah, because he was in Illinois.
Yeah,
and transferred here, and so I like his size and what little I've seen of him on film. I mean, what I've read about him, he kind of fits in with these other guys. Some of them, those guys that you mentioned, probably have a little bit more actual in-game experience than Or Gillespie, so that, for good reasons, puts them ahead.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I lean toward these guys because they've been on the field. Corey Thompson was on a UNLV team last year. He was, when I was reading stuff from before last season, they were looking at him as like being one of the key receivers. But then UNLV ranked 129th in pass attempts. And Ricky White caught like 79 passes. So there were basically no passes left after Ricky White and Jacob DeJesus. So he basically didn't have any room to receive any passes. He got 21 targets the entire year, despite playing almost 300 snaps on the season. So I think Utah State's just going to be a place where he's actually going to, like Bryson Barnes, if he starts, is still going to be a running quarterback, which could have a bit of a limiting factor. But Utah State's not going to average 20 pass attempts per game like UNLV did last year.
Yes.
And Brady Boyd,
a lot of empty routes.
And Brady Boyd, I think, is in his 5th year, where he spent 4 at Texas Tech. And so this is a guy who's not played a ton on the field, like at his position, but he's a guy with a lot of experience going up against Power 5 guys. He's going to come to Utah State, and I think could be similar to COC Mariner, who had a similar path where he didn't do much at Utah, and then he comes for his super senior season at Utah State and balled out.
Yeah, finally has that opportunity to actually play and not be overlooked or recruited over, I should say. Has an opportunity. Somebody who's had the advantage of the Texas Tech training and coaching and practicing against a high level of athletes, and has an opportunity to finally break out and have an opportunity where he can make his own mark at a place like Utah State.
All right, so we've gone through my list, and you already mentioned one of your transfer potential breakout candidates, Carlos or Gillespie. Do you have any others you want to put on?
The only one other I would add, and then this is kind of curious, John Gayer, the outside linebacker. They list him as being a transfer from Cal, but he really didn't spend much time at Cal.
He was there at spring ball at Cal.
So he's more of a transfer from the College of San Mateo. But just here's another player who's got a lot of experience behind him. Again, at a lower level, but
15 sacks and 19 tackles for loss.
Here was somebody who produced, and he's got good size at the linebacker position. 6'4", 245 pounds. There's just a lot that I like about John Gare, and I think he could be a real impact player for Utah State.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is the fact he's got that size and that production. Like when Keon Sloan came in, he was about 40 pounds underweight, but he had double-digit sacks at where in JUCO where he did. And he eventually got things going.
Right.
But it took him a year.
Took him a minute. Like that ability was there. Like the instinct was there. It's just getting caught up to the speed of the game and getting physically to the level that you needed at this place is what it just took him a minute to get there. Once he did, it's like, oh my gosh, Keon Sloan has finally been unlocked.
Yeah. But John Gare may just be ahead of the curve in that sense, where he already has some of that speed. And hopefully size. We'll get a chance to really get a look at him in fall camp. So those are the players that we think, transfers that we think are going to step in right away, have a big impact. Breakout players that are returners. Again, I have my article on Cache Valley Daily. It doesn't include Eric's picks, unfortunately. But
no, I get left out of this. These contributions. But that's why I'm here on the radio.
Yeah, you get your say on the radio. But so I got my 10 picks that are up on Cache Valley Daily. Let's head over to the Young Power Sports text line. A few people texting in 435-339-0321, 5452, saying getting Utah State football and basketball season tickets should never even be a question.
There you go.
If you have the disposable income to do it, then if you're living here in Logan, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think.
And I get it. For some people, it's they have so much money to go around, and you have to make hard decisions. But if you're on the fence about whether to go watch Utah State or not, I think that for the games at home, I think you're going to see some fun games for Utah State, especially in the early part of the schedule.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Like the early part of the schedule is filled with games where you can learn a lot, but still be pretty confident that they're going to get wins because you're going to face UTEP, McNeese, and I think Nevada all within the first 5 or 6 games. I'm not 100% sure about the Nevada game, but UTEP and McNeese like within the first 4 weeks, I think, where you're going to get to see them ideally play well and at home. And then you got Air Force in the early season goings as well. So, which will be a challenge, but I think still winnable, as Air Force is also coming off a bit of a down year.
Yeah, Air Force is slid in there. That's the second home game.
Yeah,
actually on the schedule
because it's UTEP, Air Force, and then McNeese is the third. And after that, I'd have to look at the schedule to confirm.
Then it's San Jose. Nevada's a little bit later down, and we get into November before you have Nevada.
So I just had the wrong part of the schedule. But yeah, you've got good home games, at least winnable home games spread throughout the schedule.
Yeah, but even San Jose and Air Force, those could be competitive.
Yeah, and they could be good, competitive, solid games. Like the last few games between Utah State and San Jose or Air Force have been fairly decent. Well, Air Force can be a bit tricky. Yeah. At home, they've been close.
Yeah, usually in Logan, those games are pretty competitive.
Yeah, and Utah State's usually coming out on top in those home games. Not always, but usually.
Yeah.
8968 also on the text line saying, who knows about the Boise State game? It just snows like almighty and be icy, and Boise may fumble a dozen times again. Yeah, that's the final regular season game, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
And so what's the date on that again?
November 28th.
November 28th.
Black Friday.
Oh, Black Friday. Oh, lovely. Why do they always... Haven't they played Boise on Black Friday at a different time? Because I think I remember missing a Boise game because I was with my family.
Probably.
I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, usually Boise has usually been on the back half of the schedule. Not always, but there's been a number of times where Boise State has been the last or the next to last game on Utah State's schedule.
Yeah, so it could be very cold. And yeah, just we'll see if Utah State can get the monkey off their back.
It's an afternoon game, so
it shouldn't be too cold. It'll be on CBS. So maybe if you're too full of all that Thanksgiving dinner and be like, we'll just turn on the game on CBS.
Yeah, make your turkey, leftover turkey sandwich, and roll yourself out of bed, grab something to eat, and be up to the stadium by 2:00, and you'll be good.
See if
because those Boise fans will be driving down that morning. What is that? A 4-hour drive?
It's something about that, yeah.
4 or 4.5 hour drive. So they'll leave in the morning. Not too bad. They don't have to wake up crazy early. They'll come to the game, and then they'll head home after the game.
And you can laugh at them because they don't get to do any Black Friday shopping. The losers,
right.
they're losing money because they're not buying a $400 TV.
Losers.
All right, so we got to take a break. We're going to talk about NIL Go, this new Deloitte clearinghouse. Some new details being reported by Ross Dellinger. So we'll go over those next here on the Full Court Press here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to Heat and Glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Hi, this is Ashley with LSS Insurance. Medicare can seem complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Let us help. We'll answer all your questions and get you specific information that fits your needs. Medicare is not one size fits all. We'll help you find the right coverage for you. Call 752-9493. You can ignore the TV and the junk mail. We'll get you the exact information you need. We will help you access the benefits that are important to you. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493.
Ah, the T-shirt. It's the unofficial clothing of summer. We all have a favorite T-shirt. The Logo Shop has custom screen printed over 1 million T-shirts for teams, clubs, businesses, family reunions, fundraisers, marathons, bike races. One-of-a-kind designs with creative graphics, even funny phrases. Whether you need a couple dozen or a couple thousand, the team at the Logo Shop will help with your one-of-a-kind design. From concept to creation. Order your custom T-shirts from the Logo Shop.
The Logo Shop.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
We all know moms rule the world, but dads are important too. Do something special for Dad this Father's Day. Pick him out a watch to fit his personality from Jerix. We feature watches by Citizen, Bulova.
Or if Dad's into firearms, you have to check out our newest line of precision Glock watches.
Or maybe your dad would like a tie bar, chain, bracelet, or how about a special ring with your name engraved on the inside? Let Dad know how special he is.
Jerix Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jerix.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Young Power Sports of Logan has a brand new service center that can handle any make, any model 100% of the time. The trained technicians know Can-Am, Kawasaki, KTM, Polaris, Sea-Doo, and more inside and out. They work with any brand, any model. Young Power Sports of Logan also has the tools and experience to keep your ride in peak condition. Google Young Power Sports of Logan for Cache Valley's premier power sports service department. Got most of that out in just a couple of breaths. So the latest buzz in the college sports landscape, aside from you throwing out numbers that sound like soccer formations and talking about the college football playoff format, you've also got the House settlement, and one of the biggest kind of addendums to the House settlement is this Deloitte clearinghouse dubbed NIL Go, where, again, this clearinghouse is going to basically check all of the NIL deals that are signed by players to make sure that they're actually NIL deals.
Yeah, and part of it, too, is fair market value, and that's something that's still kind of like what is fair market value? Because if you sign an athlete in Tennessee, say you got a wide receiver, dynamic, you're going to sign him to a $2 million NIL deal. And then you've got a wide receiver at Southern Utah in Cedar City, and you're signing him to a $2 million NIL deal. Which one's going to be rejected? Which one's going to go under review?
Yeah. Well, technically they both get reviewed, but one of the interesting things about that is they supposedly have this algorithm that they're going to be using, and it includes things like location, like where you're at, what school you're playing for. And it factors that along with other things like they're comparing it to other NIL deals, which my question was like, okay, which NIL deals are you comparing them to? Like, I don't know if we really have a true baseline because most of the NIL deals we've seen or that exist are of the variety that they're supposedly above market value, that they're trying to get rid of those. For instance, the stat they threw out that Deloitte had in one of their presentations was that 70% of the deals from booster collectives would have been denied according to kind of the algorithm they have. So there's a lot of deals that would be denied. So like, do they have an idea for what an athlete, is actually worth? Like, can they compare? But part of that process is like, if you're a wide receiver for like a power conference, then they'll think, okay, you're worth more because, you're reaching more people. There's a bigger fan base. There's more value in that. So that's something that will be factored in. And so, yeah, if a wide receiver at Tennessee gets $2 million, a wide receiver at Southern Utah gets denied, Southern Utah gets the same, they could get denied, and the Tennessee guy can get approved because there's a difference there.
Right. And there's a matrix system here to determine all of that. As you've kind of said, there's a lot of things that they all factor in, but it's going to have legal challenges. But we kind of detail, like, there is an appeals process. It gets kicked up the chain if it gets denied multiple times. But it can also, it does have enforcement power. Like, you can lose eligibility if you decide to go ahead and go through with a deal after it's been denied. So there can be some serious consequences.
Yeah, I think there's kind of two points they made here with like situations where they consider penalties. Like, one is circumventing the cap with, with NIL or different things. One thing that was interesting, though, is they added along with this, or Ross Dellinger included in his article, they also include tampering with another college athlete or prospect who is under contract. So there's potentially going to be punishments for tampering. Now, mind you, I don't know if that'll actually go through because there's punishments for tampering in the NFL and NBA and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And those very rarely, like, they do happen, but they're very rarely anything worth noting. It's like, oh, you lost like a 7th round pick because they tampered with this one guy. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Right. In the NBA, for like the last 4 or 5 years, we've not had 60 picks in the NBA draft because somebody lost their 2nd round pick because they tampered or something. So I don't know if the tampering is actually going to get enforced, but it's theoretically there. But a few potential punishments that they threw out, and this is another interesting thing, a reduction in transfers that a school can acquire from the portal. That was kind of interesting potential punishment. It's like, see, if you're using NIL and inducing transfers, breaking the rules to get more transfers, they can limit the number you can take on, period. You'd have to go more toward the high school recruiting route and have to wait for those guys to develop if you can even hang on to them because, everyone still transfers after a year if they don't play as a freshman.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's also things like fines, postseason bans, the typical stuff. And they kind of puff out their chest and say the fines will be substantive. It's like, well, I guess if you say so.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is I just have doubts that they're actually going to enforce these because they're kind of, as I said, puffing out their chest saying, we've got these rules and we're going to enforce them and everyone's going to play by the rules. And teams down in the SEC are like, we dare you to enforce those rules because they're going to try and break them. And they're probably going to be successful at it. If there's one thing that is tied to the history of college sports, it's breaking the rules. Like of any like kind of major-ish sport, No, I don't know if you call it a major sport since it's a sub-league to the NFL, but still. Of any sport, college sports is known more than anything else than for cheating. How much cheating goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We got to take one more break. When we come back, we'll talk about some positive things. We'll talk about two Aggies who are succeeding at their sport, Logan Hammer and Shelby Jensen, competing at the NCAA Track and Field Nationals. We'll have that next here on the Full Court Press.
At Adams Wealth Advisors, they believe that successful wealth management is all about planning. And whether you've done a lot of planning or a little, Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help. If you're transitioning a business, searching for the most up-to-date tax strategies, need help managing investments, or need help with estate planning, Adams Wealth Advisors has your back. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com for more information or to schedule an appointment.
Express Tire, tires for less. In and out with zero stress. Express Tire, tires for less. In and out with zero stress.
Any brand, any size.
This is Lydia from The Sportsman on Main Street, wishing all the fathers out there a happy Father's Day. At The Sportsman, we have great gifts. Shirts and shorts from Cool and Viore, shoes from brands you love, such as Keen, Olakai, Bourne, and Chaco. We also have, right out of London, a variety of soaps and colognes from TrueFit and Hill. If you're tired of seeing your husband's thread-worn wallet, we also have slim fit metal wallets from Secret with an RFID blocker. So come on down to The Sportsman on Main Street for all of your Father's Day treasures.
Essie Needham Jewelers has been helping couples celebrate their anniversaries for more than a century. When you present her a piece of diamond jewelry in an Essie Needham box, it says you are committed to taking care of her forever. We absolutely stand behind our jewelry, our prices, and our service. We always have and always will. This anniversary, give the gift of diamond jewelry. A diamond from Essie Needham Jewelers says that you plan on being there for the rest of her life, just like we will be. Essie Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning wants to help Cache Valley feel the love. Mountain Valley Heating and Air is giving away 5 fully installed heating and air conditioning units free of charge. Go to mountainvalleyhvac.com and help make a difference one home at a time. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com. Nominate prior to September 1st, 2025. See website for all details.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Weather is hotter now, and Napa Auto Parts has what you need to be prepared for that heat. Napa Legend and Napa AAA batteries are available. You can get a $25 rebate on Bosch lithium-ion batteries. And they can even test yours to make sure it actually needs to be replaced. They got fuel treatments from Standardine, Howes, Seafoam. It's all on sale, $8.49 a can. Mention this ad. You get Napa 15W40 premium diesel oil for $11.99 a gallon, cash and carry only. And if you need a local mechanic you can trust, visit one of your locally owned Napa Auto Care centers. You can find one by visiting napaonline.com or calling your local Napa store. These folks are from our community, serving you with expertise and integrity, and each of them are locally owned, just like your Napa store from Preston to Providence, all their locations. So finishing up the show here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan, and a couple of athletes competing at the highest level in college. Logan Hammer, he's been doing it for like 3 years now. He earned second team All-American honors in the pole vault. As he finished, he finished 12th. Yeah, he finished tied for 13th, I think is what they had him at. So what was the final height that he cleared? I'm trying to find it in here. But yeah, he didn't, I think he finished higher last year. I can't remember where he finished last year, but still he's stacking All-American honors. Oh, yeah, he cleared 5.33 meters. So yeah, he's just stacking All-American honors this year. Last year he did it, indoor as well. So he's just been absolutely fantastic at Utah State. Another athlete, Shelby Jensen, and I believe she's competing today.
Yeah, she advanced.
Yeah, she advanced because she competed yesterday, and I believe the final is today for the 3,000-meter steeplechase. So she's doing excellent as well for the Aggies.
Yeah, best of luck to her, and kudos. Always great to see some All-American recognition coming to Utah State athletes.
I know it's Saturday. I see. I can't read these properly, these press releases. She's competing Saturday. And that's the steeplechase finals. 7:30, basically. It says 7:24, but it'll be 7:30. So you can catch that broadcast coverage on ESPNU. That's going to do it for us today. We'll catch you guys on Monday. We'll react to what happened over the weekend.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. The NFL continues to dominate headlines, NBA Finals delivering, and it's the U.S. Open in golf. But if you're paying attention, no professional league has quietly had a better season than the NHL. Hockey has long lived in the shadow of America's Big Three. Yet this year, the NHL has delivered one win after another. The Four Nations tournament was a resounding success, reminding fans of just how electric international hockey can be. Alex Ovechkin, long chasing greatness, finally caught him, surpassing Wayne Gretzky as the league's all-time goal scorer. And now the Stanley Cup final. More than lived up to the moment, the series has given us Hall of Fame talent on both benches, electric offenses, overtime thrillers, and no shortage of drama. The NHL may not command the same attention as baseball, football, and basketball, but this season, it certainly deserves to be in the conversation. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.